Small businesses need, or just businesses in general, need one source, one partner that handles tax, accounting, and finance and uses that data to solve problems, business problems. And small business owners can't grow their business if they have to manage a dialogue between four different firms. It's a little bit disheartening to see that when you see this business owner that is really in need and they don't have what they need in place to get what they're needing. And so that's why we try to put the message out, is we make it an urgent message to say, listen, having your financial statements in order prior to you actually needing them for something is critical. And we see that played out big time just during the height of COVID. Your gut is for digesting food, not running your business. Okay, you don't want to run your business based on gut feelings, right? You want to have data in front of you, something that you're looking at, hard, concrete numbers that tell you how you're performing. Guys, listen, you don't have to hire a CPA or a CPA firm to do that part. It's great when you, as you're growing, to have that guidance or even just do a one-off consultation. That's perfectly fine. But at a minimum, obtain an accounting system and begin putting your data in there on a regular basis. That's the biggest part, right? Secondly, is treat it like a legitimate business that you want to grow.
Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the Construction MF'ers podcast. My name is 𝗕𝗶𝘁𝗰𝗵𝗶. I am the CEO and founder of Mobilization Funding. And today, we're going to get back into our accounting roots, cash flow, setting up your business, something I like to call the financial infrastructure. Today, we have Jeremy Johnson with us. He's a CPA. He has a great firm that focuses specifically on small businesses. They can help you find the right finance partner. And today he's going to share some insights with us about all things small business, from whether you're just starting out and the things you could be doing as a startup, or whether you are now moved well into the small business realm with tens of millions of dollars of revenue and everything in between, the things you could be doing, how you could be doing them, and where we can find some resources, maybe even a few little tax strategies too. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Scott. Glad to be here, man.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Jeremy, tell me about the why and the behind you deciding to kind of focus on small businesses and not take the normal accounting route that one may take, climbing up through the big five and becoming a partner and segmenting into certain businesses versus others. Why did you choose this niche and to serve this group?
Yeah, so, I always like to say I didn't really choose small business chose me.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is that the accounting profession as a whole has completely and totally failed to respond with the kind of service and, support that small businesses need. And so small businesses need, or just businesses in general, need one source, one partner that handles tax, accounting, and finance and uses that data to solve problems, business problems. And small business owners can't grow their business if they have to manage a dialogue between four different firms. And so, so when I started practicing, I was looking around at what I was doing and what other firms were doing. And I began to ask the question, where's the value? I'm getting their books in order, straightening out accounting issues, taking this expense and classifying it correctly, as this expense. But I really wasn't seeing the value. And even when I was in public accounting, we were working with larger businesses. So I did work with the firm early on, but we were working with larger businesses, and I just really didn't see that value. And so I'll just say this, that as I started as a CPA, I wasn't moving the needle. I was aggressive on taxes, and the practice performed well on monthly accounting, but that's just not enough anymore. Small business owners need everything an accounting firm can offer and more, especially if they expect to compete and win. And candidly, if they value survival, right? You got to have a plan in place. And we saw that clearly with the pandemic, right? You got to have a plan in place and be able to pivot. And so I understand, we get the filings done, we get the forms sent in, the planning is done, the strategy is mapped out in a way that's flexible and adaptable to change. And after we reduce the tax liability and clean up the books, small businesses still need a financial partner every step of the way. And that's why we're here. And that's why we really just have a passion for what we're doing.
I love that you say that. And I do agree with you. For folks listening, when they hear like small business needs to have a finance partner.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure everybody hearing that knows what that actually means in the context that you and I do. And
Right.
and I know it's more than just doing your taxes. But when you say financial partner, what does that mean to you and if someone's listening on the other end, how do you want them to think that term means?
So a financial partner, it can mean a couple of different things, I think. But a lot of times when a business owner is looking at a CPA, they're looking at, someone that's going to basically make sure that all their data entry is correct, right? They're not looking at a professional to actually analyze the information that's there and what that means for them, their business, and then also for them personally. And so when I say finance partner, that kind of takes it up, kicks things up a notch and says, we're not just looking at these numbers and just saying, hey, this is how your business is doing, but we're taking a bigger look at it and saying, this is how you can continue to grow your business. This is how you can scale. This is how you can achieve financial success from a wealth building standpoint. Here's how you can acquire additional capital. It's looking at those financial aspects of your financial statements, right? We look at that and we just say, okay, it's the balance sheet, it's the profit and loss. No, these are financial statements. These tell you how you're doing financially. And so they need someone to come along and break down this information and make it applicable, right? Make it relevant to what they're trying to do and where they're trying to go as a business owner.
When you start with somebody, how do you go about doing that? What's the first step? Like, what's the steps in the process? Like someone's saying like, you know what, it's great. I have a CPA and they do my taxes, but all that other stuff you said sounds awesome, but I don't do it.
Right. So the very first thing, man, I mean, there are a lot of challenges that a lot of small businesses face. And one of them, I always circle it back to a solid accounting system, right? So if you don't track, if you're not properly tracking what's going on within your business, then there's no way to really have a plan around it, right? So that's the main thing. That's the first thing that we really kind of focus in on is let's get together and build out an accounting system, whether that's QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, or any of the other platforms that are out there. You need to have something in place. I've even started working with clients that were just basically using Excel. They came in and that's all they had, and they're just like, yeah, no, I need to have something a little bit better. But I commend them. I'm like, listen, you're doing something that others aren't. You're tracking your expenses. And so that's the starting point, is having the data that you need in order to make informed decisions. So having that accounting system is key.
Yeah. What do you do to figure out the right way to set that up in terms of the general ledger? And, thinking about what systems you're going to track or what expenses you're going to track, how you're going to track them.
Mhm.
Do you think about it from the business approach of what reporting? Does it start with like, hey, what reporting do you want to track, or what are the key metrics, or how do you go about creating that general ledger for a business?
So we look at a couple of different things. We look at, so number one, what is the industry that you're in, right? Who else is going to be looking at these financial statements? Because that'll have a role in how we build everything out and how we want them to look, right? Of course, you have generally accepted accounting principles. There's a standard, there's a model that it needs to fit into. However, there's still some flexibility in there in terms of what it looks like, the wording and all of that. So what we do is we say, hey, who's going to be looking at these financials? Are you just getting started? You're at 250K and you're getting started, and these are just going to be internal. These are going to be for you, right? And so we look at that. Who's going to be taking a look at the financials? And then, of course, the industry, right? There are some things that you have a statement of financial position versus a balance sheet, right? Statement of activities versus a profit and loss statement. So you have these different statement types based on the functionality of your business. And so we look at all of that and say, okay, based on who you're going to be servicing, based on your industry type, based on third parties that are needing this. Sometimes they're working with government entities, and the government entity wants to make sure that it's showing up a certain way. Based on these metrics, here's how we need to set up the chart of accounts for you going forward. So there's a lot that we really dive into in terms of how we put those financial statements together and how we just build the accounting file.
So let's take a customer or small business of yours, your common small business. They've maybe gotten a QuickBooks. they're tracking it, they're keeping up with their information in some format that is organized. In your view, what are the most common financial challenges that you see these small businesses have after they've already kind of set up something they are tracking? So beyond just the startup world.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it, and you said something key. So you have a lot of small business owners that are really kind of managing everything themselves. And so I would say the very first challenge really is to overcome a mindset issue. All right. So naturally, founders of small businesses, they show up because they can produce and they can sell a great product or service, right? And the mindset that comes with that set of priorities, it leads to businesses that believe that the financial and the tax aspects of it are very clerical in nature, and they'll just make it happen as they continue to go along. But the thing is, you have to be able to measure performance in order to have a plan. So you have to have that information in there, and it has to be solid, has to be very well put together. And so typically when we come in, a lot of what we do as a firm is education in terms of, okay, you know what, you did a great job in the fact that, number one, you built out an accounting system because you realized that it was important to have this information tracked. Number two, you realized that this was getting a little bit above your capabilities. And so you reached out to a third party, you reached out to a professional firm to come in and help you with that. So great, kudos to you. But then we come in and say, okay, based on what you've done, here are some changes that need to be made. And really, that's one of the biggest challenges, is just the mindset of, now we're not going to mom and pop your accounting system, right? We need to really put some structure to it. And we need to look at this with eyes that are, a little more attuned to looking at these figures and coming up with plans, coming up with what we're going to do and how we're going to grow and all of that. And so really, that's the challenge. That's been the biggest challenge, is just saying, okay, we're going to do this differently because you're trying to go somewhere. And we can't get there the way that things are currently set up. So even for those that build out their own system, that's great. I'm glad to see them do that because they know the power of accounting. They understand that they need to track things, but we just need to come in and clean it up and then guide them the rest of the way.
So let me play a scenario by you, and we see this a lot too. Stop me if this is unfair.
Okay.
But we see lots of sets of financials. We look at lots of different businesses and of all different kinds in the industries, but a lot out of construction, progress billing, manufacturing, but they're small business. They're all small businesses. And I'll categorize those. Let's say it's under 40 million, but probably somewhere between 5 to 40 million are the most common businesses, and even less than that.
Yeah.
The thing that I always find that resonates with folks the most when I start talking about the financial aspects is the types of decisions they will be able to make and when they will be able to make those decisions with the right information in front of them. Can you touch on that a little bit in your view? So like, you follow what I'm asking, kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because a lot of times I end up meeting with individuals like yourself when someone is needing funding, and now there's a little bit of a fire because they don't have the financial statements that they need in order to get the funding that they're looking for, right? And so it's a little bit disheartening to see that when you see this business owner that is really in need and they don't have what they need in place to get what they're needing. And so that's why we try to put the message out, is we make it an urgent message to say, listen, having your financial statements in order prior to you actually needing them for something is critical. And we see that played out big time just during the height of COVID, right? Everyone is trying to apply for these PPP loans and EIDL, and there were no financials, there was no payroll that was processed, all of these issues that were out there. And so I'm hearing from lenders, bankers, business owners, other CPAs. I mean, our phone was just ringing off the hook because business owners were they were scrambling, trying to figure out, what is it that I need to get together so that I can get this money, I can get this funding. And so it's very disheartening to see that. But a lot of times we run into that after the fact when there's a need. And that's just unfortunate for business owners.
Yeah, it's cool because one of the things that I saw, aside from getting ready to be funded or find loan programs, or if you're raising equity, or if gosh forbid you want to sell your business one day,
Right.
you're going to need these kind of reports. But before you even get to that, one of the things I found awesome was a customer of ours. We provide, they had financial reports, but one of the things we do in our loan program is we build out a cash flow for the actual project they're going to execute. And so if, take your average, 8, 10, 12-week project, it's all mapped out now week by week where the expenses are. But that
Mhm.
information is really powerful. And all of a sudden now they're like able to make decisions off of which supplier to use, when they should order supplies, when they shouldn't. Is it best to try to take this discount from a supplier because they can save money on the overall cost, but it doesn't come with the best terms, etc.
Right.
But one of the things I think is cool about the right financial reports and structure is the type of, and then, so what my point is that the decision-making capability is awesome. And the customer would tell me, wow, I didn't know with this information, it's so easy for me to make choices and decisions. And I'm like, well, you
Right.
should see what it's like at the corporate level when you're trying to decide whether you want to bid that one customer's next project, or do you want to take
Mhm.
on more work with this customer versus this customer because of the nature of, do you know how profitable one project or one customer is versus another, or one service line versus another, or one crew or geographical area or office?
Right.
That data is extremely powerful to a founder, business owner, leader of any kind of business. And the
Yes.
ability to make decisions is one of the things that they always are resonate with me. They always just say, wow, this is such, I didn't realize what I could do with this information
Right.
inside my day-to-day business. Do you hear that often too?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When we start working with business owners and we're able to provide financial statements to them on a regular basis, they're wowed by this data that they're able to now look at, that they have at their disposal, right? And it's something that they just didn't have before. And they're excited to see that, and we're excited that, we've been able to develop a system, produce the system for them to give them the numbers to show them what they're doing. And so I always make the statement that your gut is for digesting food, not running your business. Okay. You
Yeah.
don't want to run your business based on gut feelings, right? You want to have data in front of you, something that you're looking at, hard, concrete numbers that tell you how you're performing. And so again, it's an education thing. It's, business owners sometimes are just so used to operating based on their bank balance. They're looking at it, they see money that's sitting in the account, and they're like, okay, we're good, we're solid. Well, you're really not. There are some things that we need to do. There's some fat that we need to trim here. There's some profitability areas, some issues that we need to work on. And so, yeah, we see that quite a bit, especially with those that come in that just have not dealt with a firm like ours in the past that produces financial statements on a regular basis.
I love it. So tell me, what does your typical structure look like? Someone's listening to this and they're like, look, I want to plug into that. What's the process they would go through? I say, hey, you know what, Jeremy,
Yeah.
I want to get on board. Here's what I got. Walk me through the steps.
Absolutely. So we try to make sure, the thing about it is we want to make sure that we are a great fit for anyone that comes through the door. Right. We're not just going to take everybody and just make it work. No, we want to make sure that ultimately we are a great fit for you. So we go through it's not a lengthy process, but it's a really good process that's worked well. So the first step is doing what we call a discovery call. And this discovery call is very brief, 15 to 20 minutes. And that's essentially where I'm connecting with the business owner and I'm listening to, okay, what are the needs? What are your needs? What is it that you're looking to partner with a professional firm to do? What's going on? Tell me a little bit about your structure. It sounds like 15 to 20 minutes isn't a lot of time, but when you're very intentional about the information you're looking for, it's more than enough time. So during that time, we're hearing about their specific needs, their entity structure, who they're currently working with, how they're operating, revenue streams, all of these things. So what are the pain points essentially? And then we look to say, okay, so are these pain points that we can come in and eliminate? Have we done this successfully for others that are within this industry, or we're comfortable with that particular industry? And if we determine that we are, the next step is what we call a strategy session. So if they're currently using like QuickBooks Online, we request access to their files so we can get in there and take a look at their the activity of the file. We want to see how many bank accounts they have, for reconciliation purposes, credit cards, lines of credit, all of those items, to see what it's going to take to make sure we can maintain their books on a monthly basis, right? And then during that strategy session, we walk them through exactly how we work with our clients, and then what we're going to do for them specifically in helping them achieve their goals in business, whether that's, hey, they're trying to 2x their revenue, they're trying to 10x their revenue, or they're trying to expand to another market, or add another service line, or whatever it is they're looking to do, save on taxes. They need a tax plan, right? They're trying to figure out how in the world not to pay $200,000 in taxes this year. They need something put in place. Or the business owner is looking to set up some type of retirement and build wealth and take care of their family, right? They're looking for these things. So that's what we walk through the strategy session, along with what it looks like from an investment standpoint, what that looks like for us, right? And so we try to make that process real cut and dry, yet thorough, because again, we want to make sure we're going to be a great fit for the client.
Do you feel like business owners or businesses have to have somebody internally to work with you all in order to get the most out of it? Or can they just not have anybody internally, CFO, controller, bookkeeper, like not need any of those positions and just plug straight into y'all's platform?
So, it really depends on the activity of the organization and how they're structured. So we've dealt with it both ways. And so a lot of times, if there are a ton of transactions internally, sometimes it's actually best to have someone internally that's right there close to the transactions, and they can do the data entry side of the accounting. Whereas our team will come and we'll review that information, and then we'll have those CFO type conversations, and I'll work directly with the business owner, and we'll start making some plans and adjustments and strategy and all of that, right? But then we have some that are, of a different size. They just don't, it's not a ton of transactions from a revenue standpoint. They're up there, but it's just not a ton of transactions. We maintain that here, right? So we can maintain that, keeping everything reconciled. And then we do that part, the monthly accounting here. And then we also handle the CFO side. And then, of course, the tax planning and the tax preparation. So it really just depends on the business structure.
What do you think about businesses in terms of, like, we've talked a lot about, like, here's what, looking at the financial statements, here's what happened, right? This is what we did, and this is what happened. What about thinking more proactively? How do you help companies with their forecasting and forward-looking informational data streams that they can start to think, okay, this is what I got planned. This is what my goals are. This is where I want to get to. Should I buy this piece of equipment or not? Should I lease it? Should I hire these people I'm thinking of? Like, how do you help, or what kind of information and data do you see in this process that can, when is that applicable to them, and how can you help them?
Absolutely. So the first thing that we like to do is we like to get obtain a narrative of what they're looking to do, right? We have the numbers, all of that is in front of us, but I want to hear from the business owner. What are your plans? What are your goals? What are you really wanting to do with this company? Where are you looking to take it? Right. And because that feeds into forecasting and all of those things, because we need to make some shifts in some of the numbers. Yes, advertising expense was at this level for 2024. Let's just say $200,000 for 2024. Well, we're trying to ramp things up. We're trying to get into a different market, a different segment. So maybe we need to look at 300,000 for advertising for 2025. And so we take that information a lot of times within that accounting system, and we actually have a platform that we utilize, that we use, that in Excel, and we go in and we dive in and we start tweaking numbers to come up with a forecast that's actually going to make sense for the business owner. But again, it starts with the narrative. We have the figures there, but we want to physically know what is it that you're looking to do, because we don't want to just build out numbers and say, okay, here you go, you got to stick with this. Well, no, let's adapt, let's change, let's move. It's not static. We want to make sure that we can make some changes to it. So we need that narrative.
Love it. So what trends are out there now that think people need to be paying attention to? We're at the time of recording this, we're starting to wind up the end of the year, and there's different tax strategies to take. There's certainly things to consider getting into 2025. What things should be on people's radar that you're suggesting to your clients and things should start paying attention to?
Man, one of the biggest things, I just went to a tax conference in Orlando maybe about 3 months ago, and the IRS commissioner was there and was one of the keynote speakers. And one of the things that he admonished a lot of business owners, and actually, no, the tax professionals that were there, he was like, hey, please make sure as you're talking to your clients, you tell them this. And even though, we're doing a podcast now, social media has really played a dramatic role in how business owners look at their taxes and look at their business and look at accounting these days.
Mhm.
There's so much information that's out there by individuals that are unofficial professionals that are giving insights into what to do to save on taxes. I just saw one the other day. It was like, hey, don't just have a birthday party. Have a party on your birthday, but invite clients and invite it's all kinds of things. And so I saw a reply from a tax professional that said, yes, absolutely, you can do this. You can do that. There are so many things that you can do, but the question is, should you? And that's the answer is no, you shouldn't, right? If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is when it comes to taxes. So I would really admonish business owners to just be careful with the information that's out there. There's no replacement to someone that is working specifically with you and your business to give insight into what you need to do that's going to help you for your business. So work with a professional that understands your industry, understands your goals and what you're trying to do with your business.
Nice. Are there any like surefire tax strategies that some small business owners or sort of your typical small business owners just aren't aware of, but it's a very basic one that they should just be capitalizing on that at least that you suggest or you see often aren't?
Yeah, one of the things is really monitoring, and so I'll come up with one that is a surefire, but one that I definitely want to mention is depreciation and accelerated depreciation. Okay, so that's one that has changed over time. I believe it was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act where we were getting 100% of accelerated depreciation, and now it's starting to kind of scale down, right? It's phasing out, right, as years go on. And so the big misconception is that it's still 100% and it's always going to be 100%. So guys, really work with your tax professional and make sure that you have a good solid understanding of depreciation and what's changing in that. But one that I see a lot of business owners kind of miss out on is really doing what's called an accountable plan, right? And this is where you're taking advantage of, you're coming out of pocket for your business, especially as you're getting started. You're coming out of pocket for your business, but you're not putting that anywhere. It's not going into your accounting system, nothing. It's not going anywhere. And you're missing out on that deduction. And so one way to rectify that is if you're coming out of pocket for your business, set up what's called an accountable plan to where you can reimburse yourself. And what that does is that puts that money back in your pocket, tax free. Okay. But it puts the expense on the business. So you're able to properly deduct it. Right. So that's one way of doing it. And in order for you to do that, you're going to have a proper accounting system. Right. And then there needs to be some separation in terms of your financials, your finances, right? You don't want to have one bank account that you're running all of your personal bills and all of
Yeah.
your business bills through. You got to have that separation, but then have something in place like an accountable plan. Another fun one that's out there is some prospects actually bring this to me and they ask about it, is the Augusta rule. Right. And the Augusta rule is simply where you're able to rent your personal property to your business and be paid for that. Well, there's a certain way that has to happen. Okay. Number one, you have to do your research. You have to look around and find and ensure that you're billing your company a comparable rate. Okay, so you can't just say, I'm going to bill myself $5,000 a day for this
Mhm.
100 square foot piece of little block of carpet, and that you can't do that. So you really have to kind of look around at local, if there's a convention center near you or a local hotel or civic center or something, where you can, see if that amount is really comparable to that area. Secondly, you need to submit like an invoice, right? Because this is a rental agreement, right? So you got to have that in place. And then, you want to make sure that here's the other thing too, while it is deductible for the business and it's not deemed as income for the business owner who's renting out their home, if you're doing so under 14 days and not consecutively, you still have to file that on your tax return. Okay, so you still have to have that 1099 income showing up on your tax return, and then you deduct it off. And that's where I think a lot of business owners miss the mark. They want to take the credit, they want to get the deduction and do all of that, reimburse themselves, but you got to follow the process all the way through, because in case of an audit, that's going to hurt you.
So I do have one other question before I change some gears on you, but
Yeah.
let's talk about a startup business or a business that's under a year or two. Maybe they're not doing financials. What is some advice that you would offer to them starting out that they could do if you could just do these couple things at the beginning, you'd be so much better off?
Man, again, it goes back to building out an accounting system. And we're, our firm, we're a QuickBooks Pro advisor. And so that's the thing is we say, listen, go get QuickBooks, go find an accounting system that works for you, that you can get into and you can keep current. Like that is the biggest mistake that we see is that business owners, they start generating revenue and they just go, right? And the funds are going right into their personal account but develop a good solid accounting system right up front. Guys, listen, you don't have to hire a CPA or a CPA firm to do that part. It's great when as you're growing to have that guidance or even just do a one-off consultation, that's perfectly fine. But at a minimum, obtain an accounting system and begin putting your data in there on a regular basis. That's the biggest part, right? Secondly, is treat it like a legitimate business that you want to grow. And what I mean by that is as you're generating revenue, keep some in the business, right? Properly plan. So it's not just about planning for the business. You're going to have to plan from a personal standpoint as well, right? You're going to have to budget. You're going to have to, we use one of Dave Ramsey's lines for like rice and beans, beans and rice, right? You're going to have to go on that. And while you're building your business, right? You can't just blow all of the money and now you have this new revenue and you're just going to blow it. So you really have to look at it from the aspect of this is something that I'm looking to grow, and you have to take those steps as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, I'm going to jump to the next phase of this questions where I love to ask, we call them like our little rapid fire question round. I'll shoot off some questions to you and you answer just the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
What's the best advice you've ever received in business?
Best advice. With me being in accounting, there's always so much that's going on and dealing with accounting and tax. And so I would say that the best advice was if you start the task, finish the task. And I can't remember the colleague that said that to me years ago, but I think they also said just because you wear a lot of hats doesn't mean you have to wear them all at the same time. And
Oh, it's so
so
good.
finish the task.
Yeah, I love that. Start what you finish, man. No doubt.
Exactly.
What's your go-to favorite book?
Man, one of the books that I've been reading here lately quite a bit is Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone. And it's all in the title, right? It's undeniable. Michelangelo, Newton, Ford, all obsessed and all are world movers. And so that's probably my go-to book right now.
So who's your biggest role model?
I would actually have to say my dad. My dad. So growing up, just watching him, his work ethic, right? Now, I wasn't really exposed to what he did at work and all of that, but he was a blue collar worker and he worked on the line at a couple of different places. But I saw him go from first shift to third shift to second shift to back to first shift, and he just bounced all over the place. And he did whatever he needed to do to make sure that he could take care of his family. So so my dad is definitely a huge role model for me in his work ethic.
Great. What do you think the most underrated skill is in the industry?
Oh gosh, in our industry,
Mhm.
listening with the intention to understand. And
Oh man.
so what I've seen is that a lot of business owners, they want to grow their business for multiple outside reasons, whether it's like to provide wealth for their family, to give themselves more free time for travel, or start the next venture. But it's only through active listening that you're able to define success for them. And so I think just listening with the intent to really understand and be successful with your clients. That's underrated in our industry for sure.
So true, man. I couldn't agree with you more on that one. Well, Jeremy, how do people find you? So they've listened and we've gotten some good tidbits today. And they're like, all right, let me check out Jeremy Johnson. How do they find you? Where's the best place to come meet with you online or in person? Or how do they get
Yeah.
in touch with you?
Man, listen, we are all over the place. One of the things that I like to do is provide, free resources for business owners. So you can definitely find me on YouTube, Jeremy A. Johnson, CPA. Go out there. I'm on all the social media platforms, essentially. But definitely reach out and give our office a call and let's have a conversation and see if there's something that we can do, there's a service or something that we can provide that can help take your business to the next level, which I'm pretty sure there is. So anybody can feel free to email me, Jeremy at jajohnsoncpa.com.
I love it. And we'll drop all your information in the show notes here too, and the
Awesome.
bottom. And so I appreciate you coming on, man, sharing the insights with our guests. And I'm sure we've
Absolutely.
helped a few people here with some tidbits and information they can implement right away. And they certainly have found a solution if they want to jump on board and get a partner to help them do that. And I love
Awesome.
that. Finance partner. Great definition.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jeremy, thank you very much, man.
Hey, man, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
All right.
Well, everybody, that's a wrap on this show. If you guys have liked that, please give Jeremy and I a follow. We're both on LinkedIn. You can catch us both on our YouTube channels as well, Mobilization Funding or Jeremy Johnson CPA. Check us out, share it with your friends. And in the meantime, God bless you and have a great week.